Good morning, everybody. Saturday morning. Appreciate all of you being out here. I know there's a lot of things going on, but obviously this is a great conference. I appreciate and welcome the opportunity to be here, so thanks to the Montana Fire Chiefs for having me out here. One of my goals is to speak in all 50 states, and this is state number 37 for me, so it's a great opportunity to be up here, beautiful country. So I know we don't have a lot of time, so I want to jump into everything. Now, I talk about courage under fire leadership, and I'll share why here shortly, just because I think it takes courage to be a leader. How many of you in this room here are chief officers? Okay. How about company officers? How about raising your hand, just say, happy to be a firefighter or driver with no desire to have responsibility. More power to you, brother. And that's good. But I'll let you in on a secret. Even for those that have no desire to promote to the promoted ranks, you still have a leadership obligation as a human being, as a parent, as a family member, as a brother, sister, whatever else. I think that's the shock for some people. It's like, I'm just a firefighter engineer. There are times you're going to have to step up, like no different than being a parent or a friend. So we'll talk about that. I mean, we're not going to talk about groundbreaking stuff, but just a lot of good reminders. And why I say personal leadership, it starts with us, is because before we can be a leader of any, we have to be a leader of one. And I think we live in a very divisive time around not just the country, but the world, where we're struggling with a lot of that. And again, I just want to share some reminders. So a little bit about myself here. A little bit about myself. I'll talk about born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. Spent about 30 years in the fire service, 26 years with Santa Clara County Fire. Live in San Jose with my wife. We're about 45 minutes south of San Francisco, so we don't get the rain that you get, and we don't get the snow, but it is nice to be able to visit stuff like this. A little bit about my career trajectory path. Like I said, fortunate to have 30 years in the fire service. Started as an explorer firefighter, spent time as a student firefighter, paid call firefighter, and then Santa Clara County was very generous to give me a 26-plus year career, spending about 5 years as a firefighter engineer, about 5 as a captain, about 5 or 6 as a battalion chief, and then about the last 10 as deputy chief, retiring at the end of last year. So still actively involved in the fire service, teaching at the community college, Chabot College in Hayward, teach the intro to fire class. It's great to have 18-year-olds to 25-year-olds that are hungry for careers in the fire service. Also, I'm an instructor with the National Fire Academy, and to get to do a lot of other great things. A little bit about me, feel free to reach out. I'm a resource. I know, just out of curiosity, how many in the room come from volunteer departments? Probably most of you. Okay, how about career? Okay, very few. All the stuff I'm talking about, while some of it may apply to career departments, obviously it has the ability to apply to volunteer organizations as well, too, because really the fire service, just different mentalities and deliveries of how we get things done, but same concept, same mission of what we're here for. So for any of you that are looking for training resources, my website's code3firetraining.com. It's got my contact information on there if you ever want to reach out. I got a free stuff link with lots of leadership, management, officer development, training resources. So if you're responsible for training your crew, your department, or you're just looking for yourself to better yourself, a lot of good resources there. If you know of anyone that wants to become a firefighter, like I said, I teach at Chabot College. I run the website. The free stuff there has a lot of great free resources for anyone that wants a career in the fire service or just wants to be a volunteer and get in, because I know that it's still challenging. So a few things I was fortunate to do recently. Self-published 3 books, 2 on getting hired, 1 on getting promoted, both available off my website. And then Fire Engineering published my last book, 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Exam. And I know promotional processes in volunteer organizations are usually elected positions. Maybe there's a process, so it may not apply to you, but on the flip side, it's a great leadership book because I had about 37 other people. Technology is great when it works. I had about 37 other people like Billy Goldfeather, Mike Gagliano from Seattle, a lot of great people of fire service leaders around the country. Dennis Rubin actually provide a little leadership snippet, so I would write suggestions about success tips, and they would add some tips, so a lot of great resources. And then Fire Engineering is publishing my next book, hopefully early next year, on courage under fire leadership, this topic. So very blessed to have that opportunity. When we took that oath of office, whenever that time frame was, some of us might have taken it in the last year or so. I see some fresh faces, which is great. I see some other folks like myself that might have taken that oath of office 20, 30, maybe 40 or more years ago. It's all good. When we take that oath of office, what are we signing up for? I know what we signed up for maybe 30 years ago might be slightly different or drastically different than what we're doing today, but that's life. Everything changes. But ultimately, what are we in this for when we take that oath of office? This is the audience participation opportunity. Service, yeah. We all got involved. I mean, maybe, I don't think there was a gun to our heads. We probably stepped up because maybe we wanted to serve our community. What else? Give back. You know, maybe we had family members, friends that were influences to us, that inspired us, motivated us. But when we take that oath of office, we're serving our community. We're willing to risk our lives, injure ourselves for things that the average human being doesn't want to do. I mean, common sense 101. Something's on fire. Most normal people, and I don't mean that condescendingly because with all of you, most normal people are running the heck out of the building, and what are we doing? Most of us are wanting to go inside and solve the problem, whether it's a fire, rescue somebody, whatever the hazardous situation is. It takes a unique person to do this and sign up. And I think that's that key that sometimes, even today's world, that some people have forgotten what they signed up for. And I think that's a struggle. So what does courage under fire leadership mean to me? It means being aggressive. There's some that think aggressive is a bad word. Well, it can be a bad word if it's stupidly applied, meaning not wearing your PPE, not, basically disregarding everything common sense-wise, everything that you were trained, everything SOP-wise. It's being aggressive because nobody else is coming. And especially in some of your areas that you serve and protect, I can imagine the long response times you have to deal with. And by the time you get there, there may not be a lot of opportunity to do much to make things better, just given long response times. I get that's what happens. But the key is obviously being aggressive, also knowing when to be a brother or sister, also friend and mentor and so forth. And I think that's the challenge. Law enforcement, I think, is struggling nationwide with an identity crisis. I mean, we need our brothers in blue and our sisters in blue. They're important, but they're struggling with that blue line concept where blue line looks out after each other, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing when they're looking up and covering for people maybe when it comes to someone breaking the law or totally doing something wrong or stupid or just bad. Fire service, we got the red line. I mean, it's not maybe as much as law enforcement, and we don't have those same situations, thankfully, that they have to put themselves in risk in their lives every day. But sometimes someone in our stature, regardless of rank, needs to be that big brother, big sister to say, hey, knock it off, stop it. And it's maybe not the boss, maybe it's a coworker, or maybe it's you telling your boss that. Also knowing when to say when, and ultimately providing the best possible service to those that we're fortunate to lead, serve, and work alongside. I think all common sense stuff. Now, some good definitions that I've seen about courage, because I think it takes courage. Nobody wants to be the one that raises their hand. We all know right from wrong. We're all taught that from day one. But why do you not want to be that person that raises your hand to be that one that says, hey, no, we can't go there, or stop it, knock it off, or go? When you got a group of people like this, especially type A personalities like most of us are, what risk do you take when you raise your hand to the brotherhood, the sisterhood? And I use that term not in a sexist way, but just generically. What risk do you take raising your hand? Criticism from your friends and colleagues and people that you thought had my back. I thought you had my back. Well, dude, I do have your back, but I'm raising your hand to try to help save you from yourself. But unfortunately, when we're in those positions where we're maybe crossing the line, we don't sometimes think that way because we think everyone should have our back, right or wrong. And that's the unfortunate part, because then you run the risk of being the outcast. Each one of us in this room knows right from wrong, but how few people actually want to raise their hand, because then you're labeled as that guy or that gal that stopped something that probably helped the situation in some capacity. So this quote is just so true, that moral courage is a rarer commodity than bravery in battle. I think most people have no problem running into a burning building. I think that's what we all signed up for. Well, we'll talk about the challenges there today. Here's another definition I saw of: in our line of work, courage isn't running into a burning building, like I mentioned. That's what we want to do. I would like to think so. Courage is speaking up, stepping up, and doing the right thing when you know it will make you a target. Now, Dr. Griffin talked yesterday, obviously, about the Charleston 9, very tragic situation for those that attended. I've seen his presentation before. Sadly, that's one of many tragic situations in the fire service, and we just need to do our best to learn from those things. The challenge that we're seeing in the United States Fire Service is that as generations go on, and that's nothing against generations, because we're all going to get older, hopefully, and live a nice, healthy, long life, we lose a lot of history because of just normal processes. So, Worcester, Massachusetts, for those that remember it, it was 23 years ago almost, and actually we're going, 23 years were going on. And obviously Charleston was 15 years ago. There's many of those other tragedies in today's fire service that we need to do our best to personally learn from, but also share with others. You know, it's great to do the hands-on training because that's what we need to be doing, but we also need to be learning from these tragedies to try to share those lessons. And before you think, well, that would never happen in our department, Charleston would never happen, or Worcester would never happen, or whatever tragedy would never happen, we lost Captain Mark McCormick, Santa Clara County Fire, 300-member department, 15 firehouses, a very suburban area that doesn't burn. You know, Silicon Valley, home of Netflix, home of Apple Computer. Things don't burn. We lost Captain Mark McCormick back in 2005. Mark was electrocuted in a structure fire. A defensive, surround and drown structure fire. Mark was electrocuted from one of the power line drops away from, it wasn't even in the building. And at that time, our department had only been in existence since 1947, so less than, about 60-some years. And again, the whole Silicon Valley, if you go back to the 40s and 50s, was farmland. I mean, it wasn't really that developed as it is today. And I remember guys in our department going, Chief, or Captain, because I was captain at the time, we never thought a line of duty death would happen at our department. And I'm like, what? You know, Chief, we just never thought that would happen. Well, it happens. It's not just Boston, it's not just Chicago, San Francisco. It's big city America, rural America, volunteer career. Tragedies like that don't discriminate against people. And I think that's that challenging part that we got to not forget about. And it's not just line of duty deaths or injuries. Some of the things I talk about today relate to personnel issues. You know, firefighters that are getting in trouble, going to jail, getting arrested, on-duty stuff, off-duty stuff. It's all that stuff. But in short, Worcester, Massachusetts, I had a chance to drive around town a little bit, drove around Bozeman when I got into town a couple days ago. And you know what? Your towns here, at least in the city areas, look no different than a lot of our areas and most of America. And obviously, I know some of your areas are extremely rural. But that building in Worcester, for those that didn't know, 6-story cold storage warehouse. It's that building that nobody wanted to fight a fire at because they knew it was going to be crappy, for lack of a better term, because of minimal access, minimal egress, and just a bad situation if someone got trapped in there. And that's what happened when they lost 6 firefighters. But they got dispatched for that fire. Obviously, no standpipe sprinklers. It had been vacant for about 10 years. I hate that term, vacant. We throw that around the fire service. It's vacant, it's vacant. How the heck do we know that? I mean, our lives are lives, no matter who they are. And is there a chance that homeless folks or unhoused people are in those buildings? Now, I don't see much of an unhoused problem up here. I mean, you go to parts of like, not just the Bay Area, but Seattle, Portland, cities around the country. I mean, most areas are dealing with that problem. And yeah, the place should be vacant or should be abandoned, but we just never know. And I'm not trying to downplay firefighter safety. It's critical that we keep ourselves safe, but it's critical to remember what we signed up for. But anyway, Chief Mike McNamee is my inspiration for courage under fire leadership. He became that first incident commander. You know, he sent crews inside. And there's people that say, why did they even go inside? The building, there was nobody in there. There shouldn't have been anyone in there. Well, they were searching for homeless folks. They were doing their job, what they signed up to do. Now, before you say, well, they lost 6 firefighters and there was no homeless people inside. Well, how do you know that? Here's the challenge about leadership. And if you've never been in that leadership role as an incident commander, whether you're a company officer, chief officer, you've never had that weight of the world on your shoulders. Yes, nobody wants to kill or injure a firefighter. I don't want to do that on my watch. I mean, unless it's absolutely necessary. And when I say absolutely necessary, look at 9/11. For those 343 that lost their lives, was that absolutely necessary for some of them to lose their lives? Yeah, because you think about the thousands they saved getting out of harm's way. So yeah, it's nice that everyone goes home, but it's not going to be always realistic. But anyway, the incident commander sent in 2 firefighters to go look for these homeless people. Homeless people actually did start this fire. They started the fire. But they left the building and they forgot to tell the fire department, hey, by the way, that was us that started the fire. It's on the 3rd floor, and just go up the stairs to the left. That's where it's at. There's nobody else in the building. Have a good day, guys. I mean, we've all seen that where we've pulled up to places where it's like, hey, everyone's out of the building. Even if I was the incident commander pulling up and having, oh, thank you very much for your honesty, and can you stand by for law enforcement so we can, deal with that process of it? How much can I trust them? I mean, I can't trust, we still have to do our own search. Now, do we lighten the load or let back if it's like, okay, well, they told me everyone's out of the building. How do they know everyone's out of the building? No different than pulling up to an apartment complex if you got an automatic alarm sounding at a hotel or whatever else, or a supermarket or other office complex. How many times for you to hear from somebody that works at the building, oh, everyone's out? Have you physically checked every single room for smoke and fire? I mean, most of the time, no. They just say that because they want us to get the hell out of there. So anyway, they did what they're supposed to do. I'm not faulting Worcester at all, nor am I faulting Charleston or any other ones, because I think everyone did what they thought was right. Obviously, there's lessons learned. But anyway, they lost 2. When those 2 came up missing, the chief sent 2 to go for them. Those 2 came up missing. He sent 2 more. Ultimately, there was 6 missing. At one point, this chief knew he had 6 dead firefighters somewhere in this building. He still didn't know because they still couldn't do a search at that point. But there's a lot of great videos about this that I encourage you to refresh yourself, share with your crews on. But at one point, he had to make the call because he knew, based on the bottle time and the survivability profile, for lack of a better term, of his personnel, his men weren't coming out. So he had to make that decision to call it. He basically had 12 to 15 Type A firefighters ready to kick his butt because why? They wanted to go rescue their brothers. There's many firefighters that want to die trying. And you know what? I'm glad we have people like that on the job. However, that Type A personality that we deal with, no different than law enforcement, there sometimes needs to have a designated adult in the room to be able to say, hey, stop, which what he had to do. When he called it, he knew deep down inside those men were not coming down. That's a crappy feeling. No one, God forbid any of us ever have to deal with that. Well, he's now got yelling and screaming firefighters that he said were ready to kick his butt. I mean, they had tools in their hand. I mean, he had to block the door like this to keep them from coming through him. I mean, I'm amazed that he didn't get his butt kicked. Well, he screamed, listen, I've already lost 4, which actually turned out to be 6. That was the initial transcripts. They're screaming at him, we're not going to lose any more. He was the most hated man in the Worcester Fire Department for a number of years. I had a chance to talk with him and listen to one of his presentations. And he goes, that was the toughest decision I ever made, was having to call it. I mean, he goes, I already knew I killed 6. He goes, but I knew that I could have killed, a heck of a lot more. And he is lucky. Just like you look at Charleston, they're lucky they didn't lose double that number when you look at all those things. It's like, wow. But that's why we need to have people that take those leadership roles on. And usually it's going to be a chief. It could be a captain, depending on your structure, whatever you call that, supervisor. When I was a battalion chief, I don't know if I could have called it. I think I would have been succumbed to peer pressure. Look at a room like this, obviously more than 12 to 15. But pissed off, angry, screaming firefighters that want to kick my butt and probably would kick my butt if I, stop them. I don't know. That took courage to me to be able to not lose any more lives than he had to. Now, he's fortunate that there was no homeless people in there because there's people that, on the flip side, say, well, he could have lost 0 by not sending anybody in that room. True. But then let's say they still got to do a secondary search once, everything's safe. Now let's say they find a couple of homeless people in there. You take your pick. I know there's most of you that probably say, well, I'd rather have 2 homeless people than, say, 2 firefighters die. Okay, yeah, we got to look out after our own, but lives are lives. You're going to be on your deathbed one day. Maybe it's going to be fast in your sleep, hopefully. Maybe it's not, and you're going to be looking back through your life. And hopefully you're not going, man, I wish I would have done this or did that or done this better. We don't want to have regrets. I get that. But I don't want to have a firefighter life on my head, I guess. But I also don't want to have civilians die because we choose to just write off the building. Now, if the building is fully involved, hey, it is what it is. That building has got fire and smoke out of every orifice. We've pulled up to those, especially in rural areas. Guess what? You're going to write off the building, obviously. But it's not always like that. Sometimes, rarely is it fully involved in most situations. So that was a courageous call to be able to do that. And he told me, he goes, he was the most hated man in the Worcester Fire Department for a few years. Meaning, when he got back to the firehouse, those same brothers, because it was mostly men for Worcester Fire, those guys wouldn't talk to him. He goes, he had crews where he'd walk into the kitchen table like he normally did years ago to grab coffee or a meal or BS with the guys, and people wouldn't even look at him. They wouldn't do the usual, hey, Chief, how you doing? What's going on, Chief? Hey, brother. It would be silence, or they'd change their conversations, or people would leave. And he goes, that was so painful because he goes, I knew I did the right thing. Number 1, going in the building, but also number 2, at least making an attempt, but also then cutting it off. He goes, I know I did the right thing. He goes, And I think most of the brothers at the kitchen table know I did the right thing, but nobody wanted to be that one that raised your hand and then actually, Chief, because think about it. He goes, I would have loved to have somebody at one of the kitchen tables very quickly say, Chief, you know what? Man, I wouldn't want to be in your position. It sucked. You did the best you could. You made the right decision for the right reasons. And you know what? That's what you get paid the big bucks for, boss. You know, I think that would have helped him out, but nobody did that. He goes, people individually came up to me and told me, hey, Chief, you did the right thing. It sucks, but you did the right thing. It could have been worse. But nobody would say that publicly. And that's when courage under fire leadership really tied into. That's courageous, because like I said, I might have killed more than 6 that day if I'd been the incident commander, not because I wanted to, but because of peer pressure, because groupthink and peer pressure can be very challenging for those of us in leadership positions. Or even if you're not in a leadership, like those people that raise their hand in this room as firefighters, you may be in that position where you may need to be that 1 out of 12 to 15 that says, hey, stop it. They got 30-minute bottles. They've been up there for an hour and 15. There's no realistic way. Even when your officer's the one that said, okay, I better fall into peer pressure and let's just keep sending people in, that could be the junior person that has 0 rank that has to be the one with common sense. Yeah, good luck trying to raise your hand, because now you're going to be that one. It's like, shut up, rookie. Okay, that's that challenging part. I bet you when you bring people on the job, you probably teach them, like most of us, see something, say something, do something, especially if it's unsafe. Yeah, that sounds easy to do when you're in a classroom, comfortable environment at the firehouse. Now put it into action when you got really jacked up type A personalities that are ready to rip your head apart. And God forbid, what if you're wrong? You know, God forbid I won't be wrong. So that to me is courage under fire leadership. I put together 5 key points of success I just want to touch on. It starts with us being a leader of one. I think we're struggling with leadership in general. And I know why we're struggling with leadership, because it's not usually difficult to find people to step up to positions, thankfully. But what happens when they're in that position is now, in today's world, it used to be if you can get 50.1% positivity rating as a leader, 50.1%, you know, simple majority, you're doing good. But even the best of the leaders out there, whether you're, you know, whatever, you know, city government, federal government, state government, local government, fire, police, whatever, private industry. In today's world, we've made it so easy for people to complain about things and moan and groan about things that it's tough. Any of you want to be like let's think back about 2 years ago when COVID started coming out. Any of you want to be like a public health director or CDC director? Oh, you couldn't pay me enough money to do that job. Oh, how about 2 years ago when all the challenges with law enforcement when they were dealing with? Any of you want to be a police chief at that time frame? Even when one of your officers makes a righteous self-defense shoot, which many of them are, some of them aren't, but some of them are, even when it's caught on camera that the officer did the right thing, depending on the politics of that jurisdiction, nobody cares about what the camera is. They're going to make up their own points. That officer is usually forced to be fired right away, even when they did the right thing and they have rights and everything else. And the police chief was there's police chiefs that lost their jobs even in legitimate situations. And it's like, holy moly. You know, thankfully it seems like the pendulum swung back to common sense, but we're still living in that cancel culture world, which I hate so much. But we got to live within it. Because it's so easy for us to be targets. You know, we got to be able to, like I said, look ourselves in the mirror going that we did the right thing for the right reasons. We're not perfect, can't walk on water, but you know what? We got to go to bed at night. Even when you're that 1 out of 15 people in the room that has to raise your hand to be the designated adult, regardless of your rank, you got to be able to say, okay, they may hate me, but you know what? I did the right thing. Chief McNamee said it took a few years, but pretty much most of the guys started warming up to him, but for a while, nobody would talk to him. I'm surprised you didn't develop any substance abuse issues. We already know we have a substance abuse problem in the United States with all lines of work, especially public safety. He goes, no, don't ask. He goes, I'm surprised I didn't hit the bottle or get into other stuff, because he goes, it was depressing. I go, yeah, because again, we want to be around that team environment. You know, good reminder sometimes that we all need, myself included, you know, we live in a world, and it's so quick for people to point on the younger generations as being entitled, and I'll never be one to pick on generations. And before you want to be that one that picks on generations, here's a news flash. Guess what they were doing 50 years ago to your parents and grandparents about their generation, whatever the generation name was? They were talking crap about them. Guess what they're going to be doing to your kids and grandkids' generations 50 years from now? Same thing. It's just different issues. You know, now, oh, these kids did it. No, no, no. It is what it is. But I don't think it's just a younger generation thing, because if you're blaming the younger folks, how about blaming their parents? I know good parents can raise crappy kids. I know crappy parents can raise good kids, and it's not necessarily because of their parenting. Sometimes it's their environment. But on the flip side, we live in an entitlement world, I think, and that's the challenge that we have, especially as leaders and supervisors, is that it's not just a generation, it's everybody. Now take a look at this short little video clip of Dak Prescott, Cowboys quarterback, on the sidelines. Here he is caught. He does two key things here.
Obviously, last 3 drives, 10 plays, 13 plays, and another 13 plays.
What were the two things that he did? He finished his Gatorade, did the obligatory over-the-shoulder shot, nobody scoring him. But what did he do after he did the shot? Well, and before that, how did he take personal responsibility? And before he did, though, he did something a lot of people wouldn't have even done. Yeah, most people would have just not even looked. He actually looked, and some people would have looked and saw the mistake and then just sort of whatever. I don't want to put a union brother, janitor out of, work or whatever else. Trust me, the maintenance folks at a stadium with 80,000 people have plenty to keep themselves busy, even if he picks it up or doesn't pick it up. But he did that. Now, there's people that say, well, he was in front of whatever 80,000 people there and plus how many thousands or millions on TV. I don't think he did that. Why do you think he did that? Do you think he was that, if he was that, for those that think he was that self-aware to recognize that, hey, I'm on national TV, I'm in front of a stadium, I better do this, then why is it that so many police officers today that are wearing body cameras are still getting fired for literally way crossing the line and beating the crap out of people, even when they got their camera on and everybody else's camera? It's like, dude, you got a camera on. Kids are kicking someone's head in. It's like, and you're watching the career dissipation light from Backdraft. Oh, they're going to jail and everything else. Why do you think he did that? Yeah, that comes back to character. In a perfect world, as a fire chief, I know we're all struggling with recruitment, number one, and retention. Am I wrong? And I think every volunteer organization around the country is struggling for people just to get there and to stay. Even career departments are struggling too. And I know there's some fire chiefs that are stuck in it used to be we got thousands of people in the Bay Area to pick from. Even our department, Bay Area, we're not getting thousands. It's like a couple hundred applicants. Then when you narrow it down with background investigations and all the other stuff, sometimes it's the best of the worst. Not that bad, but in some departments it is. And sometimes for some of you in chief officer positions, you're going, hey, I'll take a warm body. Give me a warm body. I'm happy because I need numbers. And I get it. It sucks. But when I talked to someone in the Dallas area when I was teaching this class, they basically said that's how he was raised by a single mother, apparently. And again, she taught him right from wrong, and that was just how he was raised. And then again, we see other professional athletes, football, baseball. How many of them would do something like that or do other things? Now, sports is a bad analogy because you can be arrested for domestic violence and everything else, but as long as you're a rock star athlete, then you're going to probably get a multi-million-dollar contract and keep your job. But in the fire service, as much as we got to look at, character counts for so much, because give me people like him. He may never be the best quarterback in the world. He's got his issues like most do. I'm better than me because I'm not a quarterback. But I'll take that over any day. He's probably not going to be the guy that gets arrested for off-duty domestic violence or DUI or whatever else. But again, I know you may be stuck with things. Speaking of Charleston, here was Charleston chief a few years ago at that June 2007 tragic fire there. For those of you that are in chief officer positions, it's lonely at the top, meaning my fun years were battalion chief by myself in a buggy as a shift commander, but it was also lonely because I'm by myself. Because I don't want to break up my crews because they got work to do, and I understand span of control, but it's a very lonely position to be in when you're that chief officer. But if you are that chief officer, try to surround yourself with some extra support staff on working incidents, not basic stuff. And it may have to be through mutual aid. Or, hopefully you have mutual aid or automatic aid agreements, but then there's maybe a geography challenge. There's some of you that are probably like, Steve, the next department is, 30, 45 an hour over here or in that direction. I ain't getting it. Well, you know what? You do the best you can with what you got. If you've only got 4 people showing up to the house on fire, well, you got 4 people. I mean, that may be a lot of people. But here's the thing. If you got someone inside to rescue, whether you got 2 or 125, you still got to do your job. Go rescue them or attempt to rescue them. But here's the challenge. Once you get that rescue component or equation off the line, that's when you got to draw the line and refocus your efforts, because 4 cannot do the same as, say, 25. The numbers don't equate. That's where we get ourselves in trouble, thinking, well, we got to do everything we can. No, you do what you can. If it's only 2 of you showing up, well, my baby's inside. Well, if it's only 2 of you, get your butt inside and do the best you can. I mean, that's what we're here for. Here's another picture of a chief of a metro-sized department. Our chief, when I got promoted battalion chief, there was a lot of our battalion chiefs that stopped wearing their bunker pants. I mean, we expect our firefighters to be in full turnouts for structure, full pants, coat, helmet, SCBA. And I remember our fire chief at the time, he came out to some of the battalion chiefs that were just wearing their coat and their helmet, and it was interesting because I was just, oh yeah, I can become battalion chief. I don't need to wear my coat anymore. I mean, my bunker pants. I was just following suit because that's what the other guys did. Well, my chief gets out there in full turnouts, and he goes, hey, I expect all of you guys. And one of the senior BCs goes, what are you talking about, chief? He goes, we're not going in the hazard zone. There's enough people on scene. And the chief goes, yeah, but you're not leading by example. You were them one day, so now you forgot where you came from. He goes, you may have to go in if shit hits the fan, but probably you don't, but lead by example. If it's a 100-degree day and they got to wear their gear, you be in your gear too. And it's like, okay, I mean, to me that makes sense. White hats are chiefs, and I know it can be very tempting when you're that chief officer role to want to do things, but know your role, stay in your lane. When I got promoted to captain, and especially chief, I miss being on the nozzle by all means, but you know what? There's a time and a place. That's what we need to do, is let people do their jobs. Now, if you're the only person there as a chief officer, then by all means, grab the nozzle. I mean, I get it. But you got to lead by example. Here's a picture of a chief on the side of it looks like a water tender here going to a call. That's the side. I don't think there's a seatbelt on the other side. I mean, for those of you that get the firefighter close calls emails, we're still killing firefighters and injuring firefighters for not wearing seatbelts in the year 2022. Not even seatbelt, not even inside. Same with the chief. It's just weird because this picture actually looks like the exact same guy, different situation, because here he doesn't have his jacket on, but he's got looks like his EMS jacket on, or maybe just a ski jacket here. But I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not that guy from California telling you what to do. Trust me, please don't take it as that. I'm just offering best practice suggestions. That's really what I'm here for. So we got this friend of mine from San Jose posted this. He got to the station as a captain, and he saw this at his station. Now, when you're a firefighter, and again, I'm not making any fun of firefighters. When I was a firefighter, I'd walk into that and laugh. And, as I sit down, number one, I'm happy that there's a role there. But number two, it's like, friggin' B shift or whatever else. Okay, but as a company officer, chief officer, or as a firefighter, you better be crapping your pants if you see something like this. Why? What is this? Well, that's just shift war. Shifts are just having fun for the career folks. Oh, that's just so-and-so screwing around. What is the underlying theme here? No pride, no ownership. What else? Laziness. Complacency. I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, as we all should. I want to always find people doing the right things, not looking for the wrong things. But when I see something like this, again, as a firefighter, I didn't have that big picture's perspective because I just came to work as a firefighter to have fun, as most of us do. Then when I became an officer, that's when I recognized the responsibility that, oh shit, it's not just trying my best to make sure these men and women go home, but also trying my best to make sure the men and women out in the field, the citizens, are as safe as they can be. But my concern here is if someone's doing this, what are they doing when it comes to checking their gear? Checking their PPE, checking their apparatus out. How are they when it comes to training? Are they cutting corners on their paperwork? I mean, maybe I'm jumping down a rabbit hole, but I bet you this is a symptom of a bigger issue. Maybe it's a shift war issue if you're a career department, or even if you're volunteer, it can be just personnel wars and everything else. Well then, about a year and a half ago, I was in New Jersey. I get to my hotel. I was teaching for a department outside of Manhattan, and I saw that roll of toilet paper like that, and I'm like, whoever cleans that room must be married to a firefighter. Well, then, of course, the wise firefighters are like, no, Chief, COVID, COVID. Okay, COVID, that's the excuse for everything. COVID, COVID. Okay, I get it and everything else. So then I was in Durango, Colorado about 6 months ago. This is the airport, I think it was at Durango, Colorado. I was dying. That's almost like, a true firehouse bathroom would probably have all the rolls stacked up on the back of the toilet and everything else, but I'm just sort of chuckling here. It's like, okay, well, hopefully at least they're keeping up there. But back to the things. Sometimes you have to sweat the small stuff. You don't want to micromanage. You don't want to jump on people's stuff all the time. I was always taught, don't sweat the small stuff, Steve. I had a captain, Steve, chill, don't sweat the small stuff, just chill. What do you think his leadership style was when he's like, don't sweat the small stuff, chill, smoking his cigar? There's all types of leadership styles out there. Do you think he's a strong leader? Nah, he's that laissez-faire, casual leader. Just do as you want to do. Well, I've learned over the years, the small stuff can lead potentially to big stuff. Because here's the challenge, though. If you know John was in charge of doing the bathrooms that day, and you actually go to John and say, hey, John, let's take a look at this. Anything out of the ordinary here? What do you risk when you say that to somebody in today's world that you're the boss and you're hoping they take the personal responsibility to say, hey, my bad, I'll put it on. But what do you risk by saying, hey, can we at least, maybe put it on the roll? What do you risk being called? Oh, yeah, that's like one of the biggest things that people throw out today next to being, hey, I'm going to sue you, or stop harassing me when you're trying to hold them accountable, even if you're not harassing me. It's, you're micromanaging me. No, micromanaging me. Here's the question. Is it micromanaging if I tell you to put it fold out? Somebody goes, yes, Chief, that's micromanaging because it shouldn't matter. Then I love it. We had a great discussion in one class. Someone goes, no, actually, if you look at the patent of this, the patent shows roll out, fold out. I learn something new every day. So it's like, but here's the challenge. To some, that's going to be micromanaging. But on the flip side, how about you being a leader of one to be able to do it right in the first place, to not make your boss do their job? Because think about it. All good leaders should share their expectations, their leader's intent as it's called. And then when people don't do to me, my leader's intent is pretty simple. I try to sum it up to 3 words, do your job. It covers everything, right? Do your job. Well, no, because common sense, everyone has a different definition of common sense. Doing your job could be different. But then if people don't do their job, you need to hold them accountable. I'm not saying fire somebody over this, good Lord. To me, taking, hey, John, anything out of the ordinary here? To me, this should be a very easy situation to hold someone accountable because a good human being would be able to say, all right, Steve, my bad, I'm sorry, I'll put it on. Dude, come on. Well, they left it for us like that yesterday, so I'm going to leave it for them tomorrow and blah, blah. Dude, okay, let's rise above, take the high road, just do the right, okay, I'm sorry. There's no discipline involved there, was there? It was just, because think about it. Most of the time, we have that progressive discipline ladder. In most departments, the worst is termination. Usually the lowest level of discipline, maybe just a written warning or a verbal warning, whatever you call it. The only reason we have to take each of those steps up the disciplinary chain is because when basically someone makes us do our job as bosses. But again, most of the time, if people fall on the sword, like I was taught as a young firefighter, you're going to make mistakes, you do stupid stuff, immediately fall on the sword because it takes the wind out of the sails of your boss. Your boss is pissed off when they see something like this. And then obviously, if you're the one that say, hey, Steve, I screwed up, my bad. Oh, shit. Okay. Got nothing. I won't do it again. But I think that's what we're missing in today's fire service and world is teaching our new folks, own up right away to your mistakes, take responsibility, because you probably won't get disciplined unless it's significant. I mean, drive the rig drunk, kill 3 people, hey, my bad. Okay, well, there's probably going to be consequences there, but for most stuff, it's not to that level. A good definition of integrity. I was always taught integrity is doing the right thing at 3 o'clock in the morning when no one's looking. Well, flip it around. That is true, doing the right thing when no one's looking, but look at Dak Prescott in front of how many thousands of people, if not millions. To me, integrity is doing the right thing knowing everybody is looking, because they are. Even in a dark alley, there's probably cameras up there in some capacity recording everything going on. Everybody has at least usually one of these things with recording capabilities, and not to mention streets and everything else. I love it when people say, well, my privacy, and then they're holding their iPhone. I'm like, okay, if you got an iPhone or a smartphone, and you're worried about your privacy from something else, oh, good Lord, you don't know what you signed up for. But here's a picture from Detroit a couple of years ago. There's a retired, it's hard to see, but there's about 12, 13 firefighters posing in front of a vacant house. And it's a battalion chief's last night. So I guess tradition in Detroit is that they take a picture with the BC his last night for his going away picture. Well, the house is burning, mind you. They wrote it off. And if you've ever been to Detroit or a lot of big cities in the Midwest, Detroit, St. Louis, there is a ton of, well, there's blocks and blocks of literally nothing because they bulldoze things already, which is really weird. And there's sometimes like one house left in the whole block because everything's burned down or been torn down. But they've got a lot of vacant structures. A lot of them have homeless people in there, so you can't write them off. Well, this was actually someone's house. They posted this on social media, and then the next thing you know, this one kid comes up and says, hey, it wasn't vacant. It was my grandma's house. She was out of it because she's remodeling it right now. And then you knuckleheads are doing this stuff. Well, the battalion chief obviously retired. There's nothing you can do with him. But my understanding is they were looking at disciplinary action for every one of those people, not just the company officers. I mean, the chief was already retired, but the company officers and the firefighters. And you may go, why the firefighters? Well, because nobody raised their hand to be able to say, you know what, hey guys, this ain't cool and this ain't the right thing to do. But again, tough, traditional, big city fire department, you want to be the one in front of going, hey guys, this ain't cool, that's somebody's house. Oh, shut up, kid. I get nobody wants to do that, but had someone done that, no one would have been disciplined. Now you look at Detroit from a leadership standpoint. That was company officer and a battalion chief. Now here's their commissioner and their deputy commissioner. This is from a previous time. So right after that first one comes out, basically, now it starts coming out of hypocrisy in Detroit. Now there's pictures surfacing of the commissioner on the left and the deputy posing in front of burning buildings. This is from a separate time. And then another time, here's that same deputy. This is this whole separate incident. Then you start to look at it, it's like, okay, is that just like the cool thing to do in Detroit? And I'm not making fun of departments. I'm the first to say that when I share videos and pictures from departments and firefighters, it's not here to make fun of them, it's to learn from them, to not have you be in the same situation. And you may say, I never put myself in that, you might not put yourself in that situation, but maybe somebody else does in your crew, or thinks it's cool because they saw Detroit do it, or FDNY did it, so we gotta do it. Well, no. You know, now granted, there's probably there could be homeless people in this building, but the challenging part is, especially the higher up you go, you got to walk the walk, talk the talk, lead by example. Well, we're struggling with that around the world of leaders because maybe I don't want to forget where I came from. Well, sometimes you got to be the designated adult. Give me this crew any day. This was our neighbors in San Jose. They posted this on social media. It was making the rounds. Now, when I saw this, I'm going, wow, we've all, and I know some of you are going, what the heck's the yellow thing? We don't have hydrants. Yeah, I know there's a lot of rural areas. Thankfully, we have a lot of hydrants, but you got to do what you got to do with what you have to work with. But anyway, I talked to the captain because I knew him in this situation. I just want to know a little more. I go, this is a crusty captain that when I found out it was his crew, I thought he would have broken the windows, just knowing him as I know him. Well, I asked him, I go, did you tell, what happened here? He goes, it was my stupid probie. And stupid probie? He goes, yeah, I told my probie to grab the hydrant, help while the driver's getting getting water going to the hose lines, the pre-connect hose lines. He goes, I told my probie, a guy on the job, maybe barely a year, to get the hydrant, help the driver out, and then go join the other firefighter to make fire attack. Well, the probationary firefighter did this on his own. And the captain, without missing a beat, goes, I told that kid afterward, kid, you missed a 1 in a million opportunity to get that bucket list item checked because you're never going to probably get a chance to do that again. And of course, the probie's looking at him going, what are you talking about? I guess the kid never watched Backdraft or any of the other movies or doesn't pay attention to social media. The kid was apparently just doing the right thing. Now, there's a time and a place to take that window. I totally get it. Green light, take the window if it's impacting, but I don't see any kinks that are obstructing the flow of that 5-inch. So the kid did the right thing on his own without direction. Even the captain goes, no, but he goes, and I can't speak for Montana, in our area, wealthy Silicon Valley, even if it was a legit break the windows, as long as we weren't flaunting it and doing videos like some people do of like, ha ha, don't do that. Don't add insult to injury. As long as we did it even for the right reasons, we'd probably be doing a lot of paperwork, and our chief would probably be paying for the windows, even though it was them doing the illegal activity. But again, give me this crew any day. individual can do the right thing on their own, I mean, that's awesome. I love this sign in one of the Phoenix firehouses. We've all promised those things in our interviews a year to go to the fire chief. I'll give 150%. I'll jump to the moon and back. I'll do everything. And then when they get on the job, some people forget that. Even I, over the course of my 30 years, have had to remind myself sometimes when I was feeling sort of down or maybe a little bummed at leadership or bummed at the situation or just frustrated. It's like, wait a second, I got to fall back to what I promised I said I would do. Now, the fire chief that hired me is long retired, but you know what? That's integrity. So ultimately, if you're struggling to be a leader of one, how do you expect to attempt to lead others, not to mention have followers? Because there's a lot of people in leadership positions that people don't want to follow. Number 2, know your why, and more importantly, live your why. People always ask me, well, Steve, what's your why? Simply put, trying my best to reduce and prevent life and career-altering events, injuries, deaths, civilians dying, firefighters dying, while ensuring excellence and top-notch customer service. Pretty simple. One person at a time. Again, I don't expect you to take everything away, but if you can maybe take one nugget out of what I shared, or maybe one little suggestion or tip that maybe you want to bring back or think of, great. You know, I look back to me, I mean, it's just my wife and I, we don't have any kids, but to me, you know, fire departments, family, friends, you got to have a balance. Health and wellness has never been more important in today's world than it is today, especially the fire service, but especially the world. So balance is key. I mean, I love what I did with the fire department. I miss most of the people. When I say most, I missed 99.9% of the people. There's always that 0.1 that you're like, okay, that was the one that caused a lot of headaches, but we all have them. But I miss most of the people. I miss running calls. But you know what? That was a great chapter of my life, and I still enjoy teaching, giving back like this, and staying engaged so I don't get out of touch. You know, I always still love going to rock concerts. Yeah, I love rock concerts. People look at me, it's like, you like heavy metal and hard rock music? Yeah, what am I supposed, you don't look like one of those guys, someone said. What am I supposed to look like? It's like, no, I mean, just don't judge a book by its cover. I love playing baseball when I can and everything else. Now, I challenge, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but as you bring on new people, besides orienting them to your department, the fire service and everything else, and especially those of you that are considering leadership positions, whether you're voluntold or you actually want to step up to a leadership position, I challenge you to have your own personal mission statement. All of our organizations have probably mission statements. Most of them we can't remember like this because it's too long. Keep it simple, but have something that helps guide you. And it makes you think differently. I also have my core values because, again, I look back at them every now and then just to try to remember and keep me on track, because as a human being, I make mistakes left and right like everybody else does. You know, and again, someone may not have a desire to promote, that's great. Even if you want to be a firefighter, you still should know your why. You know, whether you're a parent, whether you're a family member, whether you're a friend or whatever else. Key point number 3, for those that are in leadership positions, fully understand your roles and responsibilities. Let's look at this. This is something I wish I was taught when I was a brand new captain. It took a while. Think about this, and this applies to actually all ranks. You or one of those that you supervise or work with has a better chance of suffering punitive discipline, the bad stuff, or getting cancer, because we know cancer is going to probably affect everyone in this world if we live long enough. Whether you're a firefighter or human being, that's the sad part about so much cancer, but especially more so to us, or having a mental health crisis, which world challenge that we're all dealing with, and getting killed in the line of duty. And I say that not to downplay line of duty deaths, because we're still killing about 100 firefighters a year from that. But now suicides are way outnumbering the line of duty deaths. Mental health crises way outnumbering them. Firefighters that are getting suspended, fired, demoted for doing stupid shit, off duty, on duty, whatever else, that number is way above the 100. I'm not. We got to focus on all these. And sometimes as a boss, that leader, you've got that responsibility to have empathy, have compassion, look out for your folks. It's a lot of responsibility. Even as a coworker, it may be your boss that's having a bad day. I've never loved every one of my bosses, but I've learned I got to support my bosses. And sometimes I had to do mental health buddy checks on my bosses. My fire chief during COVID had to go out in back surgery. So the assistant chief, brand new assistant chief, 39 years old, good guy, is now fire chief and acting fire chief of a large department, $130 million budget, and it's COVID time. So he's dealing with all that stuff as well too, and he's got young kids, and I remember, you know, he just looks so frazzled. I mean, he's doing the best he can, and I sometimes just walk in his office, shut the door, he'd always joke, am I gonna get my ass chewed out now? You know, like, no boss, I'm not gonna do that, but it's like, Chief, and he's trying to make levity, but it's like, dude, how you doing? How you holding up? And he's like, oh man, and he's telling me stories of how long he's working. But it's like, dude, anything I can do to help take the workload off? He goes, no, I'm already pushing so much down to all you deputies. You're all doing a great job, but thank you for at least looking out. I'm like, you know how to get a hold of me if you need something, and every now and then, hey, here's a coffee. I don't drink coffee, but hey, here's a coffee, or hey, want to go grab lunch? And again, you may not agree with your boss or fully see eye to eye with them, but you want your boss to have your back, so you got to have their back, and you hope it reciprocates, even though it may not reciprocate. But here's something else for the fire officers. You're not just a fire officer. You're all these positions. This is what was very sobering, especially for career fire officers. They're like, well, no, I work for a city fire department. The fire chief is the one that's in charge of that, or the HR director for the city is in charge of HR, or whoever's the risk manager. We have a training officer. No, especially on a shift schedule, you're there 24/7, 365. Well, you are too in a volunteer schedule. I mean, you're not maybe at the firehouse, but if you're responding, that highest ranking person is the one that's maybe having to wear all these hats to look out for your crew members. So there's a lot of that responsibility. You can't just say, well, I'm not, you are a risk manager. You are a training officer. So can't really point fingers at anything else. Number 4, don't let yourself or your personnel fail your community. I just want to try not to run over here a little bit. This was just a quick little story. This is what we all need to be aware of. Is your crew, when the bell goes off, your tones go out, is your crew ready to handle it? It meaning anything. Could be anything. How do you know the strengths and weaknesses of your crews? You get out there and train with them. And you know what? We're all busy. And as a volunteer, my hat's off to you, because many of you probably have full-time jobs, not to mention families, and trying to add volunteer training is even tougher. But again, you signed up for it. We got to do this for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Will you do all you can to protect lives and property? Are you going to do all you can to, lives and property are there before us. But also look out for the health and welfare of our crews. If not, forget why you took the oath of office. Now, this is a story that could have happened anywhere. Is Montana an OSHA state? Yes or no? Do you have OSHA here? Okay, so 2 in, 2 out is something you have to follow? Or is just 2 in, 2 out a suggestion? You're the individual. I mean, I'm not making fun of you. It's like, because I have a lot of our officers, and they get promoted to captains, like, hey, chief, that 2 in, 2 out stuff, does it apply, or how does it apply? And I go, okay, you're the one at 3 o'clock in the morning pulling up first due. I'm not there. You need to know the policy of the department, and you need to know what the laws say, because you're going to be the one held accountable if a firefighter dies or a civilian dies. Holy shit, that's a lot of responsibility. Yes, it is. So do your research. But anyway, this is a little old lady from Polk County, Florida, and I'm not going to go through the whole case study. I'm just going to give the bigger picture here, because it can happen anywhere. They sent basically a career department. They sent a full first alarm assignment with 20 plus people responding, or 20 people responding. And basically, in essence, they were told, they had this little old lady. There's video and audio of this. I encourage you, this is a great training moment to share with your crews. She's in this little house. It's a long flag lot, meaning a long driveway, hard to see, so they couldn't see the smoke. She's in there. She can't get out on her own. The house was maybe 1,500 square feet max. She was right by a door, found dead. She was on the phone with the dispatcher for 20 minutes. The crew, first arriving crew, took a little bit of time to get there, because when you look at the time, dispatch, she called in at 19:06. The on-scene time was like 16 minutes later. Yeah, it was a long response, but they're all crew. Multiple people responding, no different than you all, even if it's just you and your personal vehicles. Well, what happened is that she died, and basically the first in fire captain, number 1, did not decide to go in and rescue her. He was waiting for 2 in, 2 out. And they were told multiple times by the dispatcher, there's a lady in there. He immediately got so just wrapped up in a normal operations mode that I got to wait for 2 in, 2 out. It wasn't fully involved. So that lady died because of him. He also just Snapchatted. I'm not familiar with Snapchatting, but apparently while his crew got there, drivers getting ready to get some water to the pre-connect, he's Snapchatting live. He initially got disciplined for that, and then it came out that he was waiting for 2 in, 2 out. He ended up resigning. The report shows that the firefighters weren't prepared to fight a fire and save a life. It also came out that the officer was inexperienced. Well, chiefs, if you're putting a person in leadership positions, especially in a volunteer organization where I know training may be challenging, it's still the same applicable laws and responsibilities as it is maybe with all the stuff. So anyway, this captain ends up resigning. The chief ends up resigning. all because they were waiting for 2 in, 2 out to happen. And why I share that, and I encourage you to do some more research there, because that first in captain, where they failed, not just him Snapchatting, he got on the radio literally saying, hey, we got a fire, next in crew, when you get here, 2 in, 2 out will be established, we're going to go inside. And what did the second due engine say? Copy. There's a chief responding, there's multiple rigs responding. That dispatcher was timed as saying at least 6 times to all the crews, there's a report of someone in there. And of course, every time, copy, copy, copy. What did they copy? Nothing. They wanted the dispatcher to probably shut up, because we've all been there where it's like we're trying to focus on driving, get our plan together. So one of those people, if you haven't heard the term crew resource management, CRM, it's an airline term that the fire service has been trying to use. When you've got a crew of people, a team together, it might be a lower ranking person that has to say, hey, did I hear that there's a report of a person trapped? There is no need for 2 in, 2 out. Get in that building. But I found even from a lot of our officers, we drill it in them so much about 2 in, 2 out that they forget that there's an exception. If you haven't read OSHA, read OSHA. When emergency rescue activities exist, then you can violate 2 in, 2 out. Well, what are emergency rescue activities? Last time I checked, a structure fire was emergency rescue activities, right? So I'm not saying be stupid or reckless, and I hope I don't scare the crap out of those of you that are chiefs, but there's a reality in there too, and you hope you empower your personnel and your officers to make good decisions based on the information. And again, I don't want to go to my deathbed with Mrs. Pickard knowing that I killed her on my watch because we were waiting for 2 in, 2 out. So just a few other things to close out. My fire chief used to tell our new company officers, congratulations, welcome to being officers, but your biggest responsibility is what? Well, making sure our personnel go home. Yeah, of course that's important. Taking care of the customers, of course that's important. He goes, your biggest responsibility is mentoring and training your replacements. Even if your replacements don't want to be your replacement, meaning let's say you have firefighters who are like, hey, you know what? Been doing this for 40 years as a firefighter driver, I'm good. No desire to wear that collar brass and have that stress the badge. No problem. But they still better be the best they can be at their position, and they still need to be mentoring those new folks that come in, because we all have that obligation to mentor, train, and educate our replacements. Because our future chiefs and officers are those we hire today. Some good resources if you're not subscribing to like these free email lists, I encourage you to, because a lot of good information that you can use for training material with your crews. Obviously, Fire Engineering, Firehouse are probably the only good print magazines out there left. Google Alerts are some good things you can set up free of charge through Google, where you just type in a word like Montana Fire Service or your department's name. Like I have a Google Alert for my name. I don't want to have my name in a bad way, not that it happens, but you never know. I have Santa Clara County Fire in there because I want to see what's going on with the department, but it's a good little tool to keep you up to date with different things. Now, just a few things in closing here. Closing thoughts here as we wind down. Ultimately here, don't forget where you came from. Yes, that was my last office as training chief. That was a recliner. I was the only chief that had a recliner. I inherited it from the previous chief, but I'm like, man, I got a recliner. I didn't forget, but I never had a chance to use it because I was so busy. But don't forget where you came from. It's so easy to do that. Obviously, our personnel are our greatest asset, and there are a lot of bad bosses out there. I mean, I hear it in big departments, small departments, career, volunteer, private industry, government. There's bad bosses out there. But you know what? You got to do what you can to take care of your folks. For those of you that are in chief positions, rolling into the scene thinking that life gets better when you get there, I wrote an article for Fire Engineering a couple of years ago. Chaos should never stand for chief or captain has arrived on scene. Because that's always the joke for us. I'm a chief, I can say that. But you don't want to be this chief rolling through town here. They're pissing in the wind, as you can tell. They're not making a difference, but they're trying. I give them credit. And I know it's a little dated, the wood panel station wagon. We don't see too many of those along there. And I knew you may go, well, we don't have 5-inch, so that won't be a problem in my department. Well, you know what? Don't hit the water tender, I guess. But if you can't make the situation any better when you arrive, don't show up. And you know what? And hopefully your personnel are trained to handle it in your defense there. Like I mentioned, we lost Captain Mark McCormick. I don't ever want to lose a firefighter or have a firefighter significantly injured on my watch. I know sometimes it's not controllable, I get it. But there's some things. Mark's death was definitely preventable, getting electrocuted. You know, and that's one of many things. I also don't want to have anyone fired on my watch, suspended, demoted. You know, instead, try to let the good things happen. You know, and in closing, when I talk about courage under fire leadership and how it starts with each one of us and how tough it can be to raise your hand and be that designated adult at times, sometimes you're doing the right thing, you're going to feel alone. Trust me. I mean, Chief McNamee with Worcester felt alone, trust me. Like I said, when he had to make that call, he felt alone for a while. It's very lonely. Or if you're the chief just saying, hey, I got to make a budget cut or I got to do this, there's also going to be days you feel like this. Trust me, I bet you some of you that might be chiefs or just up in leadership positions, you've had to make that tough call, and it's easy to feel like this. My chief, I lost count of how many times he'd walk into my office going, well, I guess I get the Department Asshole of the Year award right now or the decade. Well, chief, trust me. People, they'll get over it. You did the right thing. You can go to sleep at night and be on your deathbed knowing you did the right thing. It's painful, because especially if you're a people person like I think most of us are, and you like being popular like most of us I think do, it sucks when the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the team doesn't really think we supported them or had their back. But that's why you're in that leadership position. It sucks. No, thank you. No, I don't want to be that CDC director. So in closing, thank you very much for the gift of your time. I've really enjoyed my time up in Montana. Very hospitable. Feel free to connect with me on social media. My YouTube channel has a lot of videos as well, too, on helping people get hired, promotional stuff, leadership stuff as well. But I'm a resource for anybody. Happy to hang out and chat with anybody. But hopefully our paths will cross again at some point in the future. If you're ever out in California, come out and say hi. But thank you again, everybody. Take care.